Hello friends, Mick here. Welcome to the vlog. Something a bit different today. Towards the tail end of 2020, last year, before we went into the different tiered arrangements in the UK and before the second lockdown, a friend of mine came to visit, Aynsley Lister. Aynsley is a British singer-songwriter, blues guitarist, all-round decent egg, who I got to know a little bit over my time at Guitarist magazine. Ayns and I rubbed shoulders through the years, and he did a bit for the mag over the years. I was aware of his career as he was releasing records and stuff. But it wasn't until after I left Guitarist that we got to know each other a little bit better. And Aynsley was kind enough to ask me up on stage at the Birmingham Guitar Show back in March, which was great. Played a Freddie King tune and I think Purple Rain. We'd been texting backwards and forwards about Strats and a few things, sent me pictures of the lovely gold thing that you'll see in this video. And Aynsley was due to go on tour. He was one of the few artists that had sort of maintained a little bit of touring activity through a bit of careful planning, social distancing and all of that. Actually managed to do a tour of Germany. He was due to go back and do another one. Then as the situation escalated, it was cancelled. Obviously, story for many artists and musicians, just pretty gutting news really, given that that's how they make their living. Just before it was cancelled, Aynsley had called me and said, do you know what, I need to widen my tone a bit. Normally there's 4 people in the band with keys, drums, bass and me. The keys guy can't tour because of COVID and a few other things. So I just need to widen my sound a bit, and I've never really done this. So while we were setting it up and arranging a date, I said to Aynsley, do you mind if I set a couple of cameras going and the audio going? I don't want the video to kind of take over the day. I don't want it to be about filming something, but I would like to capture it, because if it's interesting and it turns out okay and we discover some stuff, I think it would make a really interesting vlog. So that's what you're about to see. Anyway, so he came to visit. It's a little bit of an unusual format because it's very sort of wobbly scope, almost Blair Witch Project kind of, it is as it happened. But I thought it was a really interesting journey. I always say you're not talking about pedals unless there's a man on his knees on the floor with a pedal board.
Yeah. Yeah, you're always kneeling down on the floor, aren't you? Like, you're going to see how crude my kind of pedal board is and how DIY it is. On the desk.
On the pedal table of doom. Nice.
Oh, I need to talk to you about P90s as well. There's a lot of ground we've got to cover, Mick. Okay. It just, because I use the volume on the guitar quite a lot, so yeah. It just cleans up a bit better when I back off the volume. So the way I get my clean sound is to have the guitar on about 3. And then literally just keep going until I get enough crunch or. So I've always got probably more overdrive than I need, just at the volume control. It's probably the pedal I use more than anything else. And I suppose it's just given me more of this and more of that. Because I really like, if I've got a guitar I like and an amp I like, and I'm getting the overdrive from the amp, it's just giving me a bit more of everything. It's like a more pedal.
Why are we here then? Let's talk about that.
Okay, we are here because I've had this setup and this way of using my amp and guitar for most of my gigging career, really, sort of fairly simple. And I've liked the idea for quite a while of just adding some extra stuff like delay, or also I really like old Fender amps, and they've got the really nice vibrato that you get on them. My main amp that I use now that I tour with is the Riff Signature amp, which has its own reverb, which sounds great.
Because that, to me, that sounds like a little bit Marshall-y and a bit Fender-y, that amp.
Yeah, it's kind of a combination. It cleans up, and it's got that kind of clean, kind of jangly thing when you back off the volume that you get with a Fender, but when you wind it up, it's got that Marshall grind.
What output tubes does it have?
EL34s.
It does.
Yeah. So I suppose I'm just wanting to add some broaden my sound palette.
Yeah.
Because recently, I did a tour in Germany 3 weeks ago, and we normally go out with keyboards, and we went out as a three-piece because obviously the situation at the moment. And I found, obviously I had to play differently because I had to fill out the sound, but I found myself wanting to add some extra texture to the sound. On a 2-hour show, this is basically what I've got. Mm. And I thought I could add some more interest sonically if I added delay, a vibrato thing that you'd get on an old Fender amp, maybe some other just atmospheric-y stuff.
Are there particular points in the night where you feel you need it more than others?
Yeah, I think the thing is, when I play with keyboards, there's a lot of songs that will start with like a nice atmospheric intro, and the keyboards will hold down a pad or something, and I'll just kind of do my Eric Clapton, B.B. King, and just do the thing. But obviously, without that, I can't. So I even considered actually adding a loop pedal. So when I start a song, I can actually just start a loop going and then play over it, and then the band comes in as a whole. Just all sorts of things. There's no limit really, but I suppose I'm trying to get as broad a sound palette as I can, just to keep it interesting, and just because guitar, bass, and drums, you're very limited as to what you can do. I'm really happy with my sound. I don't want to change anything about what I've got already. I just want to add to it.
Just want to augment it. Yeah.
But the problem I've got when I have tried delay pedals, because I don't have a clean amp behind me. All the overdrive is coming from the amp and being pushed even harder with the boost. So when I have tried to add things like delays in line, first thing is the delay responds to the amount of input signal.
Yeah.
So, of course, if I've got my guitar on 3 and I set it to that, I think, that's the right amount of delay. As soon as I turn the guitar up, it goes crazy. And, of course, the amp, it just sounds like a mush.
Yeah.
So I suppose I'm not really sure. This is the extent of my pedal board. This is the most I ever use. An octave. Even the Tube Scream, the T-Rex, I think I kicked that in twice for 2 solos on a gig, and it's probably at the end of the set where I'm just getting endless feedback, and that just pushes me over the edge. But other than that, I use the octave on 2 songs actually.
And use the octave down sound, yeah?
I use the octave down, to give you that kind of throaty... Yeah.
All right.
So I suppose just trying to add to what I've got without massively complicating it. And, I've always got at least 2 or 3 amps with me on the road. I've tried using the multiple amp thing, and I'm not against that. If I could get it all from 1 amp, basically just the Riff Signature amp, if I could get it from that and augmenting my pedal board, I'd be happy. But if I had to have another amp that's doing like a wet and dry thing, you're going to have to explain that one to me. But I've heard the wet and dry, I don't really get what that is. But I feel like I'm in this little bubble where I've got my thing I do. I'm really happy with it.
Yeah.
But adding to it was quite a daunting thing.
Yeah.
Like, I need to add a delay pedal. Oh, God. There's a million delay pedals.
Delays, yeah. Okay.
How do I set it?
So we don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, basically, is what you're saying. All right, let's get started.
Oh god, yeah. So I've opened a can of worms, really, or can of something.
Okay, here we are. Step one. Then we're messing around with delay, and the Maxon delay. And this, you're not really a delay person, are you?
Not really. No. I mean, I've messed around with it a bit, but don't really know what I'm doing. It always sounds good when other people use it, but when I try, it just sounds like a complete colossal mess.
So let's switch this on and off and see what you think then.
Okay. So. Like that.
And off again.
Okay. What I would probably do at the moment is I would try and play the delay. So I would go.
Yeah.
I would actually try and play the extra note. And it's warm as well. It's not getting in the way, so.
So we like it, but we got a couple of problems. The first problem is it's noisy on the power. We can sort that out. That's not a big deal. Yeah. Second problem is when you go loud, you get this thing that you don't really like, right?
Well, yeah, because I'm getting all of the overdrive from the amp, so the amp is not clean. It's saturated as it is. So when I was playing just then, the guitar was on about, I don't know, 3 or 4 on the volume. Without the pedal, the way I use the guitar on the amp, I turn the guitar up to full. So yeah, when I got the guitar wound up, there's too much delay because it's obviously responding to the amount of signal coming from the guitar. When I was playing the cleaner passage, I was on 3 or 4, and obviously the amp's distorted as well, so it's all getting a bit mushy, a bit too much. And so, this is the problem I've had when I've tried delay before. All
right, so there's something we're going to try then briefly. Excuse the pops and everything. We're going to swap the Maxon out for the Belle Epoch Deluxe. With an expression pedal on it, which will give Aynsley the control of the delay level.
Oh, I've just realised I've got this backed off.
Yeah.
So if I have this full on. If I wind it up, this is going to be quite loud.
Do it!
You're in the best possible
Do
place
it!
there, Mick. That's really cool because I can literally just control. Well, yeah, just do it by ear, just to taste. I mean, normally I'm on like 3 or 4, or about 7, or about 10. I use this as like a kind of overdrive control in a way. So, but no, that's really good. I like that.
Okay, what's happening? We got loads of hiss. I suspect all this jumble of power and everything is causing a hiss, so excuse that. So there's one other thing I want you to try. We'll talk about what it does in a minute, but I'm going to switch through some stuff. I just want you to play.
Okay.
Go for it.
Shall I just keep playing the same thing?
Just play whatever comes into your mind, Ayns.
Okay, alright, okay. What were you doing with that? That was quite good. I really like that because there was loads. It seems like there's. Now I haven't got a clue what that thing is, but I'm guessing because it's got 3 switches, you can set 3 kinds of delay.
Yes, it felt to me like you were enjoying that a bit more from a playing point of view.
Yeah.
So what I did, I introduced 2 things there. So you heard a character delay in the first 2 things we tried.
Right.
And you kind of like that because it didn't get in the way. So on switch A there, you've got a character tape echo with actually 2 repeats on it. It's the setting the Edge uses.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah. And then on the other one, there's a different, like a more ambient type delay. And the great thing about this is, bearing in mind what you were saying about what you need, you can just switch them on and off, that one on, that one off, that one on, that one off, or have them both on.
Yeah.
And even better still, because of what you were playing, it was that sort of tempo.
Yeah.
You can tap in the tempo so that your delay repeats are in time with what you're playing, which when you're playing a pick piece, I think is probably quite important.
Right, yeah.
And then in addition to that, we could totally add the expression pedal so that you can then affect how loud the delay repeats are. So you've got control of everything.
Right, okay.
Seems like you're enjoying the feel of it.
Yeah, it was really nice.
All right, I'll do some of the crazier delays in it, and you can get an idea of just some of the mad stuff it does.
That's awesome. Was there a backwards thing on there as well?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it feels to me like we could work with that.
I really like that. That's really cool. I mean, that the only thing at the moment is that was all on with the guitar on its clean setting, if you like.
Yes. Well, we can. So there's two ways you can use this. Sorry, this is for the benefit of that camera.
Yeah.
You can have just two completely separate settings. So if you want your quiet delay and your loud delay, you can totally do that. Or you can have them both on at the same time.
Okay.
Now it depends how much you want your brain to work, because
the least amount possible.
I know, but the more the more you use it, the more if you hit these two switches, every one of those numbers is another two delays.
Is this character delay or not?
Yeah, so what basically what this has got in it is
all the kinds of
analog delay, tape delay, multi-head delays, everything, and you can just pick the one you want, assign it to a switch, and honestly, a couple of hours flicking around it, you'll be like, oh, this is cool. And if you don't get there, you can just put everything on preset 1 and only ever use preset 1.
Honestly, I only got my first smartphone 2 years ago.
I'm going to teach you how to do it.
Honestly, I'm just like, anything that's got more than volume and tone, I'm just like, I'd run a mile. I'm terrible with this stuff, which is probably the other reason why...
I'm going to teach him how to do this. I am going to teach him how to do this.
I'm quite scared. It's got more than volume and tone on it, which is a problem for me. So,
well, you say that.
Yeah. I mean, it says feedback.
Yeah, well, that's... I'll give you... In a sec, we'll stop the cameras and I'll give you a quick lesson on what these things all mean.
I should know this. I like that. That's really cool. And the thing is, you can kind of... Yeah, that's something I would have to get used to in terms of bleeding it in and bleeding it out and everything. But just to play that what I was just playing without it, you know. It just adds that. It's exactly what I need, really.
Aynsley's just had his first experience of the Echorec.
Yeah.
You know, albeit in the Boss DD500. Way to go, Boss, I would say.
That sounds amazing.
What do you think of that?
I really like it. I think from everything we've tried so far, that seems to have more options.
Yeah.
Of layering stuff up in terms of delays and Echorecs or what's it called?
That's called a Benson Echorec.
Echorec.
That's
yeah.
Made very famous by David Gilmour.
Right.
He was a big user of it, and Sid Barrett, Pink Floyd. But it's a sound all of its own. So what it is 4 delays that end up sounding like reverb.
Right. Okay. It's great. I really like that.
Yeah. What was interesting is you stopped listening to the delay, and you were just playing the guitar.
Can you tell by the way I'm?
The moment.
Can you tell by the way I'm playing? Because obviously today really is. I mean, of all the years I've been playing, today really is the first time I've ever spent any time playing around with this. And obviously, you know what you're doing with it. In the past, after 10 minutes, I would have just given up and thought, oh, it just sounds a mess, and switched it off. So what I have found with just pedals in general is that you have to get used to it, where it's not affecting how you play, and it's just adding to what's there. So as we've gone on, I feel like I'm getting more used to it. So it's like when we switch it off, when we switch the delay off, I'm like, oh, I kind of miss it. Whereas to start with, it was like, I'm not used to playing with it.
Yeah.
So having it there was almost, I'm sort of adjusting how I'm playing, whereas now I feel like I'm just playing whatever I think.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think that's a little bit of knowledge of knowing what the different delays do, and then just listening to you and listening to where I can hear you fighting with it. So we went to some extremes there.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to figure out where your edges are, if you like, the kind of thing that's going to make you want to play, and the kind of things that are going to make you want to stop playing. So I think what we got to with the Echorec was you weren't listening to the delay anymore. You were just playing music.
Yeah.
And that's the difference. I think when you a lot of people approach pedals and they just want pedals, but actually what you want is music. And I think we've taken a step in that direction.
Yeah. Ideally, yeah. I think it's just adding some kind of texture to what's already there.
Yeah.
I think any pedals that I use, I don't want any pedals I want them to add to what's already there. So it needs to be an addition rather than having to take something away to have that pedal. So for me to have to adjust my playing in order to use a delay pedal, that would be a bad thing.
Yeah.
And when I'm playing on stage, I just want to just get lost in it. And that's just going to make me sound. I think that's like if I'm playing those kind of passages, which quite often I do, before in between from one song to another, there'll be these little musical interludes, which normally I play with my keys guy, Andy. But even when, Andy's on the tours with us, it'd be really nice to have that.
Yeah.
Because it's just another, it just makes it so much more interesting. And again, I feel like I can be more creative. Why have I not done this before?
Because you haven't had the time. And
probably not the patience, really.
You buy a delay pedal, you spend 200 quid, and you plug it in and you go, oh, I don't like this. I'm not spending another 200 quid.
Yeah.
I think that's how it works.
And I think that's the other thing that, there are so many, for every delay, there's so many different versions. Boss must do at least 10.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where do you go?
So, but now I feel like I'm still unsure which is which delay, but whatever you had then, sounded really, really good.
What's the film with Keira Knightley and Andrew Thingy where he does the wedding video? Seen that?
No.
He does their wedding video and she gets the wedding video, rushes back and expecting to see a lovely video of her wedding.
Right.
And the only thing the cameraman's pointing the camera at is her. Right. Because he's totally in love with her.
Oh, right, okay.
I figure I'm doing that with your Strat.
Oh, right, okay. I didn't know where you were going with that.
Yeah. That was nearly an awkward moment, right?
I'm still getting to know this. I've had this guitar since February. I bought it and it had not been played for a long, long time. And at some time in the midst of the past, it was resprayed in the 70s in a very, basically the same colour as your Power Strip, which is kind of lime green. Yeah. And then I got Dave Walsh at Eternal Guitars to refinish it and refret it and basically restore it to pretty much how it would have left the factory.
So it's actually a 1970 Strat.
1970.
With 4-bolt neck.
It's got a 4-bolt neck. It's got the grey bottom pickups. It's got the... This is really geeky, and I've only found out about this. Apparently, it's got the Hendrix headstock logo.
Yeah.
It's got a single string tree, so no bullet truss rod. And like I say, the grey bottom pickups. So it's all, basically, apart from the refinish and the refret, it's all original. But it's had quite a life, and it had been refinished. Well, it had about 6 or 7 layers of paint, and I literally picked it up. So it had been 5 days ago, and I haven't put it down since. I've
been following your Instagram with great interest. Tell you what, that's one of the later Strats can have a reputation for being heavy, as you know. Man, that guitar is super lightweight, isn't it? It's really nice, yeah, and it's actually lost weight since all the thick poly. It had about 3 mil of paint on it. Was stripped off. It's actually lost weight since. It's been on a bit of a diet. But so I think up to, because my other Strat, I've got a 74, and that's good as well. Apparently so they say,
I mean, there's good and bad in all eras, isn't it? You just got to take every guitar on its own merits. But
Yes.
I think after the mid-70s, from sort of 74, 75, they kind of really went downhill. But again, there are supposedly some late 70s ones out there that are still good. And I think it's like anything. You've just got to find a good one. And I was just really lucky with this. I think not been played for a long time. It was a bit neglected. But I could tell, even though it had, a metre of paint on it, it still would ring. It was just, just looks a bit tired. And since I've got it back, it's like really lively. So yeah, I'm having a great time. I'm still getting to know it. I mean, even today, it's like, it's the first time really I've properly cranked it up through the amp. So, but so far so good. So.
I'm jealous. Okay, before we cut, Ayns, what I want to do for the last thing today, unless there's anything else you really want to do, I want you to hear wet dry. So
okay.
I'm going to set you up wet dry with your rift and your vibroverb.
Yes.
Your awesome vibroverb. Would you like to just tell us how this occurred?
Okay. This is, believe it or not, one of the 90s reissue Vibroverbs. And I remember buying one of them brand new from the shop from Musical Exchanges in Birmingham when they first came out. And I sold it 6 months later because it wasn't loud enough. I mean, it'd be a very different story today, but in the 90s, when I was started my gigging career, you could actually turn an amp up really loud and nobody would shout at you, but it wasn't loud enough, whereas it's the other way around now. And I sold it and regretted it ever since. And I'd been looking for one, and they don't come up for sale that often. And I saw that on eBay going for peanuts, literally because of the way it looks. And I thought, well, I don't really mind if stuff looks a bit beaten up, because when I take stuff on the road, it gets knocked about. I don't throw my stuff around, but inevitably it's going to get dinged and stuff. And I thought, well, as long as it sounds good, that's the main thing for me. It's got to sound good. And I paid very little money for it and put some decent speakers in it, because the ones that they came with were pretty ropey. And it sounds great. And I think right now it's probably got past the point of looking cool when my 2-year-old son decided to grab the bottom part of the grill cloth and rip it whilst laughing at me from the other side of the room.
What's his name?
Xander.
Okay, Xander. You can watch this on your 18th birthday and you can feel the shame.
Yeah, he thought it was the funniest thing in the world.
Of course he did.
So he did have the bottom part of the grill. So I'm actually going to get Chris at Rift to put a new grill cloth on. So like I say, I think it's got to the point now where when I'm actually using it, you can actually see the cloth flapping about with the air from the speakers. So, but he sounds good, and
cool.
That's what matters.
Okay, well, we're going to hear that now in a wet-dry setup. I think that's all we'll do today, because I think we may have blown your mind with the program.
No, that in itself isn't awesome. It's just kind of, it's just added, for me, it's just added that extra bit of kind of atmosphere and that sort of thing, so which is what I need.
Right, let's get you wet dry then. Right, this is Aynsley's first experience of wet dry. I've got no idea what's going to happen when we turn the amps on, so we will find out. Turn all this stuff off.
Right, okay.
So let's turn the amps on and see if we get a massive earth loop hum to begin with. Nope, so if you play a second.
That sounds pretty cool.
Keep going.
That sounds amazing. It's like it's really big sound, but it's really clear as well. It's a lot clearer than using it just with the one amp.
Yeah, so what I'll do, if you play, I'll turn each amp off and on. You can hear what's coming out of each amp.
Yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah, so go for it.
Okay. Together. Yeah. You know what you've done, don't you?
I know exactly what I've done.
You've made me louder.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna have to. You see, the thing is, obviously having two amps makes obviously
Let's turn down then. This is really interesting.
Okay, all right.
This is really interesting. You can have this one
second from the
quieter,
left.
can you? Yeah.
Yeah, I can have it.
Yeah. So go for it.
Okay, so.
So it's not loud. We're not super loud now, right?
Yeah.
One of the benefits I think of wet dry is you can actually be quieter and it sounds bigger.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the reason you don't like loads of pedals, it seems to me, is that it just mucks about too much with what's happening in your core sound.
Yeah.
So what you do is you go, okay, well, I'm going to take all that effect then and stick that into another amp so it does not affect my core sound in any way.
Right.
And then that way I can have the wet bit louder or quieter however I want. Doesn't have to change my main amp. Because, of course, you stick a delay and some modulation or whatever into your main amp and then the gain relationship changes and everything changes.
Right.
So if you keep it in a separate amp, it's totally out of the way.
Right.
And it's filling the space as much or as little as you want it to.
Okay. And would you recommend, because at the moment, obviously that's the Vibroverb's clean. It's a clean amp, whereas that's overdriven. So would you recommend doing it like that, where I have the delay going into a clean amp, or could I have basically two of these? And just
we always say that if the amps can be similar, that really helps.
Right.
But it's not the end of the world, and I think that's a case of you sitting there and going, actually, do I like it like this or do I like it not like that?
Right.
So it doesn't really matter. I mean, that was pretty sweet sound, I thought, what you were getting there.
Yeah, sounds great. Yeah.
So maybe what we should do is kill the wet dry and stick everything you just heard into one amp, into your main amp, and see how you feel about that. So we'll play a bit wet dry, and then I'll rejig it so that it's back to normal, yeah?
Okay.
So... So all I'm going to do now is swap the amps over, so you're getting the whole wet sound into this amp, and I'll just leave the dry one off. So this is the sum total of everything you were just hearing into one amp.
Gets it away. That's amazing.
Bring the dry amp back in.
Okay. You got like some phaser on there or something? Have you?
It's not a phaser. It's harmonic tremolo. So
okay.
We'll go back to. Basically,
I really like that.
The conclusion of that bit is, if you've got it all wet, it's just way too much. Were you feeling that?
Right. Yeah. Definitely.
When it was all coming out of that amp.
Yes.
So if we go back again, back to where we were, this is the sound of the harmonic trem. So if you just play for a sec. Give it some beans, see what you think.
Some beans?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So there you are, completely dry again.
Okay, right. So. So what I could do, I could even have it like that, but still have the foot controller where I can vary the amount that's coming out of there.
Yeah.
But always have that direct,
clean
signal.
Yeah.
It's going to be 2 amps from now on, then, isn't it? It sounds immense.
Honestly, I think once you hear it, it's really hard to go back.
Yeah.
The problem comes then if you can only use 1 amp for whatever reason, then you really do need that mix control on the delay so you can dime it right back, and then something like this, the harmonic tremolo, might be too much. Well,
I mean, I was going to ask you about that because that was the other thing that's probably because I mentioned it earlier. Yeah, like I really like the bias trem or harmonic trem or whatever you call it.
Yeah.
From the amp, but obviously this doesn't have it, so that sounds amazing.
Yeah, well, you could just turn it on in the amp.
Yeah.
Because there's a few people down the years who've done that with tremolo.
Yeah. I mean, I do it. I mean, sometimes when basically, I've stopped taking out all my old Fender amps. I mean, this is obviously a reissue one, but all my other amps, they're all proper old 60s ones, and they're all good ones that I've spent years trying to find. And the last tour I took them on, they didn't survive so well in the cold in Germany. So I decided that was the last tour I'm going to start taking old amps, just because when they work, they're great, but they came back and they were a bit unhappy. So, so when I'm using Fender amps, I will use the vibrato and stuff on the amp, but to try and get as close to that with a pedal in front of the Rift is what is that? What's it called?
No one's seen that yet. That's
okay.
That's our new signature harmonic tremolo pedal.
It's your right. It's your right. Okay.
But there are other harmonic tremolo pedals out there. That is the best one, obviously. But
it sounds amazing.
But you can use anything. You can use chorus. You can use phaser. You can use anything that's just got a bit of movement in it.
Yeah.
And just straight vibrato. Would you believe? Just the straight pitch modulation can sound completely awesome.
Exactly. And the thing is, it just adds. I mean, today's been a revelation for me, really, because I've just had this simple setup which works, and I'm happy with my sound and everything. But adding to it, so I've basically got 1 amp that's basically just doing all the effecty stuff and atmospheric stuff.
Yeah,
it sounds great because it's just clean.
Yes, and it in terms of extra pedal board confusion, it doesn't need to be massive. We've added 2 pedals and 1 split.
Yeah.
To get all that extra.
Yeah.
Stuff. And if the second amp goes down, no worries. The first one's still in the game.
Yeah.
If you want to turn the wet stuff off, you just turn the pedals off. It's not like you're committed to it in some irreversible manner. And I think that's why wet dry makes a lot of sense for a lot of people instead of stereo, because with stereo, one side goes down, that's it. You've got nothing left. Wet dry, if one side goes down, you've still got the dry, and you could just make the wet less wet.
Yeah.
And you can still do the rest of the gig.
Okay. And you would advise sort of having another, so the wet amp, you would advise having something that sounds similar to the main amp.
You know what? It doesn't matter. I thought that sounded absolutely spectacular.
Yeah, it did actually. It sounded
and then what you'll get to know is as you start to play at volume and you step on various things and you start going for it off the volume of the guitar and maybe step on a pedal or two, then you'll know if the combination is working.
Okay.
But having that wet and dry thing separate is really the key, because that.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
I
knew I was going to send you away with a problem today.
I don't it's not a problem. I mean, I always take at least 2 amps on tour anyway, just because you never know. Valves go wrong, don't they? But the last tour I did a few weeks ago, I took 2 of these out. I took a head and cab version and that. So, yeah. So that's... And having loads of amps on stage looks cool. Even if you don't use them.
Amen to that.
Yeah.
You go and get a beer.
Great. I think that's the best suggestion all day. Hello. Right. I'm back home. I've got all this stuff set up. As per Mick's very helpful diagram. It's a good few days after I saw Mick. So the diagram was definitely needed. So thanks for that. Yeah, I've got everything working. I'm just been messing around with basically the same 2 amps that I had when I was there, and I've realised that I've got a lot of work to do in terms of learning this stuff. It's one thing having somebody else twiddle all the dials and stuff while I'm playing. That was actually really cool. So I've realised that I need to invest the time in this, learn how to set it up. I actually rang Mick earlier on, and he very graciously and kindly talked me through it again, slowly, step by step. So I know now how to set up a patch, which delays to use, because when I was there, Mick was obviously going through loads of different delays, trying to figure out what was working for what I like in terms of what what I'm going to play to, or that's not going to get in the way of my playing, and obviously complements it rather than, But I can't remember what they were called, so I had to ring Mick, and yeah, he said, oh yeah, it was Echorec and Echoplex. So I basically set that thing there with one on one and one on the other. It's just, it's a whole new world for me, and I've realised that I just need to invest the time. But great fun. So hopefully next time it'll be a more, I'll be one step further along, or 2 steps, hopefully. So until then, see you later.
There you go. I hope you enjoyed that. As you could have seen from the video, I edited a bit of stuff out, but I tried not to lose too much so that we didn't lose the flow of what happened. I'm looking forward to catching up with Ayns throughout 2021. Hopefully, as these restrictions are lifted and the vaccine takes effect and all of that stuff, and we can get back to some sort of semblance of seeing artists performing again. And I really hope to see Ayns using some of this stuff when he's out on tour. Maybe he can send us another update in due course. Okay, that's it for now. We'll see you soon.